In this video we're going to look at how to export rotoscoped footage from Animate CC into Premiere Pro and to add a sound layer underneath it. So this example applies to rotoscoping footage for a music video. And what we've already done is import the video, and I'll turn on the video layer and turn off the rotoscoping layer. And here's our footage. And if we now turn on the rotoscoping layer that sits on top, and these are simply brush drawings that are drawn every 2 frames on blank keyframes. So here we go, this is with the rotoscoping layer. And finally we'll look at it without the video underneath it, without the trace layer. And this is what we want to export. So it's a short sequence, but it will still serve the purpose of this demonstration. The first thing we need to do after we have saved the file is go File, Export, and we are exporting not movie, we are exporting video. Now we're going to save it as a movie file, and we are going to ignore the stage color, and that will create a transparent background. So all that we will get is the drawings, whether they be white or whatever, imported. So that's good for this demonstration. We're not going to convert it in Media Encoder, we're just going to take it straight from Animate CC. And we can even choose, if we want to just export a certain segment. But I'm going to export the entire clip and then cut it down in Premiere Pro. So that's all fine. We're going to now click Export. Now what we have here is a warning, and this is to be expected because we knew that when we were importing the footage that the video layer is only a design time layer, which means that the video you import for rotoscoping won't be exported as well. So even though you're getting warnings, it's still perfectly normal, and we are going to proceed ahead. So now I'm in Premiere Pro, and we're going to create a new project. Rotoscoping for music video. And we'll just leave all those settings normal and hit OK. The shortcut to import to the library is Control-I, so we'll use that. And we have on the desktop, this is the footage we just created, and this is the soundtrack that I want to add to it, so I'll go Open. And both files will now sit in my project panel. There's the audio file, and here's the rotoscoping file. So I'll double click this, and that will shoot it up here into the source window. Again, there are some gaps to it. The footage starts here and it finishes here. The figure stops moving quite early on because I didn't render lots of frames. So I'm going to set that as an out point by pressing the key letter O, not 0 but the letter O, and my in point will be here, so I'm going to press I. That's my in and out point. Now we need a sequence, so I'm going to create a HD sequence. So we clicked on the page icon, sequence, and I'm using my preset AVCHD 1080p and this one here, and we'll hit OK. I'll actually name the sequence here. Rotoscope for music video, and we'll go OK. So now we have our sequence. We can drag and drop that in there or use any of these insert or overwrite functions. So let's just use that, insert, and you can see it's a very tiny element, and it's also very short in the timeline. So I'm going to zoom in as much as I can, and what we now need to do is to use our effect controls up here and to scale our drawing up. And we might even use the X and Y to position it better. So now I've done that. That's our rotoscoping sitting squarely in the middle. I'm now going to apply a fade in and out. So we're going in our project panel to effects, and we want the video effect of, video transitions, I should say, dissolve, and we are going to dip to black. So I'm going to drop this at the front, and that's way too long. We'll peel that back so it's a very short fade in from the black, like that. Let's have another look. Figure fades in, and we'll drop that on the end of the clip as well, and we'll also just dial it back a bit so it's quite short. So now we've got our figure fading in and out, and all that's required now is to add our music. So this is a copyrighted track. It may or may not work, but I will attempt to bring it in anyway. So I'm dragging my sound clip into an audio track, and I'm going to use the letter C to switch to the razor tool, and I'm going to cut it here. Switch back to the pointer tool, or selection tool, which is V, and I'm going to delete and drag that back. I could also use the ripple delete function, and obviously I need this to fade out when the footage finishes. So again, I'm going to use C to jump to the razor tool and cut through the audio. We're going back to the selection tool now, which is V, delete, and we now have sound that sits under our rotoscoping. We can also apply an effect to the sound. We normally use exponential fade, so we're going from this double arrow into effects again. Last time we used a video transition, now we're going to use an audio transition. Crossfade, exponential fade. So I'm going to fade the track in, and we'll match that to the dip to black, and we're going to also fade the audio out by dragging that onto the end of the clip and reducing its length. So now we've got the audio fading in and fading out, and we've got the rotoscoping layer fading in and out. And there we go. It's very short, but that is how we get footage out of Animate CC and import it into here, drag and drop it onto the timeline. As you saw, we often do need to scale it up and perhaps change the X and Y positioning of the rotoscoping so that it fills the frame, especially if we're trying to work in HD. And then we simply bring in the audio. The final thing that we do is we export the media, and the shortcut here is Control M. Easy to remember, M for media. Control M. This brings up our export dialog, and we can simply go with a match source high bitrate, choose an output location, and then we hit export, and that's it. The project will become an MP4 file ready for you to share and distribute as you need to. And that's the entire process from start to finish. Quick recap. Let's go back to Animate CC. Once we're finished here, good idea to turn off the video layer, although you don't have to, it won't get exported. And you go File, Export, Export Video. Not movie, but export video. When this comes up, ignore the stage color so that you can work transparently if you need to. And I would suggest you just leave the other settings as they are, and you go export. From there we go into Premiere, creating a new project. We go Control I to import our footage as we did before. Then you'll find it in the project panel. Project, there's our footage, and we create a new sequence. When the sequence is created, we drag and drop our footage onto the video layer, our audio onto the audio layer. We make some adjustments. It's also worth, as I demonstrated, using the effects, audio transitions and video transitions to fade in and fade out your work. And then remember the shortcut Control M. That's what we use to bring up our export settings, and I recommend, as I said before, a high bit rate. Choose a location, and then you go export. And that's the whole process. A final little tip, the Control M function will not work unless you have highlighted the timeline panel. So if I'm over here and I go Control M, as you can see, nothing happens. So the export media function only works if we have selected our timeline. Control M, and up comes the dialog. So there we go. Happy rotoscoping, and hopefully this tutorial has been helpful to you.